Yeah, I did want to transition over to another class that you teach called Science and Societal Issues, the Immune System, Mind, Medicine, and the Arts. Could you go into that class, what you explore in that class, and kind of how one of the few natural science courses in the RC can even relate to the RC's broader goals?
So the course talks about the ways in which um, the creative process, and in addition to the creative process, the aesthetic experience. So the experience of viewing a film, listening to music. I mean, we all, most of us, many of us, know how powerful music can be to change mood. And others of the arts too, getting engrossed in a novel or in poetry or in writing for ourselves, writing memoir, writing personal, keeping a diary. All of these things can be enhancing of our sense of self. And so having those, and there's research out there in psychological research on the effects, including effects on the immune system itself. And here's where the immune system comes in. The enhancements to the immune system, and therefore the ability to fight off disease and to be healthier in general, of those aesthetic experiences. So, and I could go into more detail than we have time for about that. The course goes into more detail about how, what it is. And a lot of it has to do with hormones and has to do with areas of the brain and neurotransmitters and ways in which hormones and other molecules, literally, get changed by experiences that have to do, that are complex cognitive and emotional experiences that that are central to the self in a psychological sense, but then are also become central to the self and in a neurobiological sense. The two are so closely related. There's no separation between the brain and the mind. Most philosophers, and certainly all neuroscientists, would agree that there's not the mind-body problem is no longer a problem. The problem is, in what way do the mind and body interact? Not are they one or are they two?
Yeah, I also want to touch on another class that you do offer. It's the study off-campus opportunity, hospital volunteers, service learning. Could you go into that experience, what students kind of go through with that class? Then also, can you touch upon how active learning in the field, so to speak, can play a different role in education than the more academic classroom-based learning? Is it more humanizing? Is it more personal? Like I imagine it would be. Could you go into that a bit more?
Yes. Yeah, and this is, this is really the same question. They both are yeah. I started this years ago, the opportunity I offer a 1 unit of credit to students to volunteer on my former unit in physical medicine and rehabilitation, to become volunteers. And originally I did it because there weren't enough staff to go around, especially to talk to patients, like I've been saying. And I thought, well, here are all of these eager students who are eager to have more insight into what goes on in the hospital. Many of them have volunteered before. Some of them are pre-med, and so having the opportunity and getting a bit of credit, and what the credit is for is for keeping track of their experiences in a journal, and then at the end writing a short paper, a short reflection on what all of this has meant to them, going every week for 4 hours a week to volunteer on that unit. And what I've found over the years is that students have been profoundly affected, really, especially those who have never volunteered in a hospital before. You see all kinds of things, as you can imagine, that you wouldn't experience. And they're things that leave an impression that become central to how you think about everything from curriculum to career. Students sometimes have said, you know, this has really cemented my interest in becoming a doctor, or no way do I want to become a doctor now, or often in between. You know, I'm not so much interested in being a doctor now. I'm thinking about, you know, doing physical therapy, or where I still need so much of the same science, or go into nursing instead, because they tend to have more time to work with people on a one-on-one basis than the doctors do, who are often in and out a couple of times a day. So it's a real way of finding out what one would like to do next. Not necessarily career, but it could be what you would like to do next in preparation for an eventual for eventually being graduating. So that has not been offered. It was not offered during the pandemic, and I don't know if it will be offered again this year, if volunteers, student volunteers, will be allowed back into the hospital this year. I've already had inquiries about that for the coming year, and what I have to say is it's up to the hospital. And so keeping in touch with volunteer services at the hospital to see what's possible. And then we'll either run the course or not. And I'm always, what I've also said to students is that if it doesn't run, I'm always available to get together and talk about what this would have been like, and to have a conversation about some of the things, and you know, just talk about it a little bit, because people are, when they get to the point of deciding they want to volunteer, they have things they're curious about. So I'm very happy to talk with folks about that.
Yeah. And I guess my final question to you would be, how do the sciences, both the social and the natural, play a role in the RC's sort of overall kind of mission, its goals, its purpose? How can they inform not only art, but also the social justice aspect that's so important to the RC? How do they play a role in doing those things?
Yeah, well, you know, first, clearly, the sciences are part of the liberal arts. I mean, every liberal arts program in the world has both natural and social sciences involved. And the social sciences, now social theory and practice, has been very strong at the residential college throughout its entire existence. Natural sciences have kind of come and gone depending on available faculty, and it's currently under a resurgence at the RC, and I think that it's really very helpful now that there's a lot more of a consensus about the ways in which, well, it's not just a consensus, it's just so obvious the ways in which the sciences, especially the medical sciences, biological sciences, are intimately involved with social justice and injustice. If they haven't been obvious till now, it has become increasingly obvious with the pandemic, and so much prior to the pandemic has affected, especially people of color in this country and elsewhere. People of lower socioeconomic status. This is just in the news every day. And so I think that more and more, we, meaning all of us, students and the rest of us who may not know a lot about natural science, may not know a lot about medicine, want to know more and want to have more access to material that explains what's going on, both biologically and sociologically. So it's such a central part of a liberal arts education, and also it's central to citizenship in the country, the world.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I very much enjoyed this interview. Thank you for being here. It was really great.
Well, thank you. This is fun. It was fun.